I'm Susan Wise Bauer. I'm the co-author of The Well-Trained Mind, A Guide to Classical Education at Home, and the author of The Well-Educated Mind, The Story of the World series from Well-Trained Mind Press, The History of the World series from W.W. Norton, and some other titles. And I'm speaking to you from my home office with very long uncut hair because right now I'm staying home and away from public places thanks to the 2020 pandemic. And because of that pandemic, many of you aren't sure what's going to happen this fall, whether and when schools will reopen, what that will look like. And many parents may find themselves preparing to educate their kids at home for an indeterminate period of time. So, as a longtime home educator, and that's 4 kids through high school, through K through 12, graduated and into college, I wanted to offer you 5 tips as you hope for the best and plan for the unknown. So, here we go. Number 1, don't try to do school at home. For most of us, the school that we went through when we were in middle school and high school is what seems natural and normal to us as education. It's really important when you're dealing with your own kids at home to remember that that way of doing school, by which I mean you do 5 or 6 subjects a day for 50 minutes at a time, 5 days a week, has almost nothing to do with actual learning. That method of teaching is a crowd control technique. It was developed by the American public school system in order to deal with large numbers of students all doing the same thing at varied levels of accomplishment. You're not in that position. You're just dealing with your own kids. So the first thing to remember is pitch out your model of what a day should look like. Forget about school. Your kids can do 5 or 6 subjects a day, although I don't think they should, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Or you can have a History Monday, a Math Tuesday, a Grammar and Language Arts Wednesday, and so on. They can do multiple subjects per day or only one. You can break this up however you want. You do not have to duplicate a system which was created to account for many children occupying a small space, when what you're dealing with are just a few children, probably still occupying a small space, but just a few. So don't try to duplicate what the classroom day looks like. Think outside of that box and think to yourself, what and how is going to serve this particular student best for the next week? You don't even have to plan further ahead than that. For the next week. Let go of the classroom schedule. So don't try to do school at home. That's the first thing. Second is this. Since you don't know when they're going to go back, what you need to do is prioritize skills. So educators divide school subjects into 2 general areas. There are skills, and those are the things that help you do everything else. So being able to understand the English language, write it, being able to do mathematical calculations. These are basic to doing all of the other things, to doing literature, to doing history, to doing sciences, to doing advanced mathematics. So don't worry so much about those other things. We call those the content areas, because when your kids go back to school, their teachers are going to pick up on those and carry them along. They'll be fine. They'll catch up. The only thing that will disadvantage them is if they fall behind in the skills. Reading, writing, grammar, spelling, math. Prioritize those. If you can get those done on a regular basis and then make some time for the kids to spend free reading every day, they will be fine. When they go back into the classroom, they'll have everything they need to jump right back into that stream of learning, whatever it is, and it's different everywhere, and to carry on with it. So prioritize the skills, make time for free reading. Don't fret about the content areas, because that's something that their teachers are going to pick back up when they get back into school. So that's number 2. Prioritize the skills. Make time for reading. Don't fret so much about the content areas. Number 3, establish a schedule. And by this, I don't mean the kind of schedule that they would have if they were in school. Remember, kids get done a lot more in less time at home because they're not listening to announcements, standing in line, waiting for their peers to finish, well, they're still probably staring out the window, but they're not doing all of the other institutional stuff that they would be doing if they were in the classroom. So, elementary kids probably should not be spending more than 3 hours a day doing schoolwork. Middle school kids, 4 hours. High school students, 5 to 6 hours. So don't try to plan them out an 8-hour day at home because that is going to be incredibly counterproductive. Plan out the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 hours that they're going to spend actually doing schoolwork and make sure that that is in your schedule. Make that happen. Make sure that they, during the weekdays, get up at the same time and go to bed at the same time. Make sure that they have set time for chores. Make sure that everybody has a time in the day when they are done, okay? Don't let schoolwork spread out over the entire day. It is one of our really necessary human routines to know when we're done for the day. So, how much time are they going to spend? When are they going to get up? When are they going to go to bed? When are they going to be done for the day? These are the things that it's important to schedule in for them. I also, again, as a longtime homeschooler, think it's really important for you to schedule a time when everyone has alone time, and this is going to be particularly true if you're all at home together. Introverts need alone time because they need people to stop talking to them. Extroverts need alone time because they need to figure out how to entertain themselves. So I would add into that daily schedule the hour or so when everybody goes away from everyone else and does their own thing. All right. Now, as you're thinking about establishing this daily schedule, keep weekends as something special. You've got 5 work days. You've got 2 weekend days. Keep those. On weekends, they can sleep in. They don't do schoolwork. The whole routine should change. We are biologically programmed to need this cycle where we work and rest, work and rest, work and rest. And when we are missing an institutional reinforcement for that, like the schools, they catch the bus 5 days a week and then on Saturday they don't. Sometimes we forget how important that is. It's still really important. So establish a weekday schedule, keep to it. Establish a weekend non-schedule and let them breathe. Then they'll come back on Monday a lot more ready to do what needs to be done. Number 4, don't worry so much about the screens. They're not, if they're home, they're not, and you're in like semi-quarantine, they're not seeing their friends, they're not hanging out in the hallways, they're not going to the movies, they're not doing a lot of things that they were doing before. Let them play video games. Their brains are not going to rot. It is unreasonable to expect a kid to suddenly develop a love for reading the classics just because they are suddenly confined to their home and can't go out and see their friends. You are, if you do the things that I've just said, which is don't try to do school at home, prioritize skills, make time for reading, establish a schedule, you are doing what you need to keep their brains engaged. When you are done with that schedule, let them be entertained by screens. Screens are really good at it, after all. That's what they do. And they won't be playing video games forever. It's just while we get through this next period of uncertainty. Sanity is important and fun is important, particularly in times of uncertainty. And then finally, just take a breath. You are not going to do with them everything that they would have gotten done if they were at school. So here's the good or bad news, depending on how you think about it. They weren't going to remember most of that anyway. Come on, be honest. What do you remember from 5th grade history? Or 10th grade science? Or your 12th grade government class? Probably not a whole lot. So if you don't somehow manage to get in front of them everything that they would have gotten if they'd been in the classroom, they're going to end up pretty much exactly where you are now, which is absolutely fine. So we're in a crisis here. You cannot expect life to continue as usual. You have to be realistic. But it's also a good time to just remember what is good about education and what is often ineffective about education. What is good about education is when a child grabs onto something and then pursues it for themselves. What is ineffective about education is when we try to hammer something into a kid's mind that they see absolutely no need for. So you have an opportunity during this time to explore the former and let go of the later. Remember my 5 tips. Don't try to do school at home. You're not in school. You're at home. Be at home. Don't try to reproduce a school day. Prioritize those skills. Language arts and math. Those are the things to really focus on. Don't fret too much about what they might or might not be missing in the content areas. 3, establish a schedule. Every weekday needs the same schedule, and then weekends need to be something different. Number 4, don't worry about the screens. If they're getting their schoolwork done, they're doing the hours you set them to do, you're fine. And then 5, breathe. This isn't going to last forever. They will be fine.